Okay, now we were discussing culture last week, right?
Yes.
So there were actually two slides left. Now, you remember anything? Or just class over, we forget everything, right? No problem. Now, the question, we discussed a lot of cultural traits, right? The differences in culture that are there between countries and nations of different cultural ideas. Now, what do managers need to do? Do they need to alter their customary practices? Customary practices means that what they practice at home, okay, in the home market, to succeed with different cultures. Now you have to consider host society acceptance. If the acceptance is low, you need to alter more. If the acceptance is higher, you need to alter less. Now, also need to see degree of cultural differences. If cultural differences are too much, then of course you need to make adjustments to make your strategy or policy more effective. Okay? Now nobody wants to make changes because changes cost money. So nobody would want to actually, okay. What is so urgent? So nobody would want to make the changes because of the costs involved. Plus, it's not always necessary that you succeed by making changes. Then, cultural distance. Now, did we discuss psychic distance? No. Okay, we did not. Now, psychic distance is the cultural, economic, legal difference that's there between countries. It doesn't depend on geographic distance, it's independent of that. Neighboring countries may be very different mentally. So that is one thing, and cultural distance is just the cultural part of it. That is, maybe you are the same place, same neighborhood in the world, let's say that, still you may have huge difference in culture. So that's, you have to understand how much the cultural distance is. If it's too much, you need to make adjustments. Now your ability to adjust, you have to face cultural shock and reverse culture shock. Now we have discussed this in the last class, so no need to discuss that. And you also need to see company and management orientation. What kind of orientation does the company have? Now there are three kinds. The first one is polycentric, the second ethno, and third is geo. Now polycentric, business units abroad should act like local companies. Okay. That is, wherever you go, you behave as if you are local there, you belong there. Like we discussed the case of Bata, remember? The brand Bata? That they go to different countries but they behave as if they are local. They don't say anything, they don't do anything that doesn't sound local. Also Unilever, earlier, now they have changed their policy, but they have become more of geocentric, but earlier they were ethnocentric. They would not say anything about being a foreign company. The way they operated was to open a subsidiary, a local legal entity in another country and act like a local company. The brands that they were using were mostly the global brands that they use everywhere. But they never mentioned anything that they are not they are not global. They're not a global company. So, for example, they changed the name. Now, Unilever is Unilever all around the world right now. But earlier, for example, in India, they were Hindustan Lever Limited. Now, Hindustan is a local name of India in one of the languages. So, people did not have that idea that it's a foreign company. Okay? So, they went to different countries, they changed their name. Because they were different legal entities from their parent company, you cannot say that they were cheating. They were just doing something that's a common practice of polycentricity. So this works out well in countries where you need to localize a lot. But it's not necessary that you need to localize the product. You may need to localize how the product is sold and for what purpose. Now the second one is ethnocentrism. believe that home culture is superior to local culture, and you overlook national differences. Now, will this work? No, it doesn't work. It's failed time and again, and it may work for a short period of time when consumers are exposed to the new product and they think that that's fine, we are just trying a new culture. Till that time it's okay, but later you need to again start making changes. Then the final one is geocentrism. You integrate home and host practices. Meaning that you integrate your global policies with your local requirements. So you have a global policy, you have regulations in place or policies in place, strategies in place that you do everywhere, but you make adjustment to some of the policies, or in each policy you make some adjustment depending on the country you're operating in, and that becomes geocentrism. Okay. Now this is considered to be the best one, okay, but it's difficult to execute in the sense that you have to do trial and error to understand what part of your strategy you need to globalize and what part of your strategy you need to localize. Okay. But as a concept, this is the best one because you're trying to increase efficiency and increase effectiveness at the same time. You're trying to save money and you're trying to be more effective or be able to sell in foreign markets. Okay? Any questions? Too early in the morning to be answering or asking questions, right? Okay, that's it for this chapter. That's cultural. Now let's move on to the other chapter today. That's the political and legal environments facing business. Let me try once, see if it works. Yeah. The previous chapter had a problem. Okay, now today we are going to discuss the political and legal environments facing business. Now there are 4 environments that we are supposed to discuss. One we already did, that's cultural. Then today we have political and legal, and next week it will be economic. These are the 4 environments in which a firm operates in any country, okay, be it domestic or international. Now, economic environment is independent of cultural differences, not fully, but you can say that if a firm is there in any country, even if it's not an international firm, they need to navigate through the economic environment of the country. They may not need to worry about political and legal because if you're in the same country, it doesn't matter really. But it's not always necessary. Now, if you're in the US, the laws are different in different states. Remember that? There are federal laws that are the same across states, but there are many laws like business laws, inheritance laws, mergers, acquisition laws. A lot of laws related to business are different in different states. Now that doesn't happen in many countries in the world, you can't say that. It's very rare to see this kind of system. Now, for example, this only happens in huge, big countries, geographically big countries. For example, in India, we have differences in laws, but not in business regulation. We have differences in taxes. We have differences in how you get married. Small things, marriage is not a small thing, but I'm saying that doesn't affect business in a big way. But in the US it does. But mostly we are going to think about the overall political situation in a country and how, and the legal situation in a country and how to conduct business in different environments. Now, it's so very obvious, every country has its own political and legal environment. Okay. Now, we may find similarities. For example, the British colonies have a lot of similarities in their laws and regulations. Why is that? Because the British came, they imposed their own legal code. Okay? And many countries, which were colonies of Britain, they kept most of that code. Okay? They added a lot of it, and they changed a lot of it, but some codes just remained there. Even like for example in India we have some laws that date back 200 years. Not much has changed in that, because people think, okay, we'll deal with that's not that important right now, we'll deal with it later. Okay. One example is that we imported British law, was law related to gay and lesbian relationships. It was illegal in India until now. Why? Because the British imposed that and we said, okay, let's keep it for a long time. Britain removed it, but we were slow. So we did that pretty recently. And there are many laws like that you will find that across countries they are similar because of this colony system that we have. Another example, like in Britain, the judicial custody of a person is 14 days. Same in India, same in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong was under British rule for 100 years. So these similarities are there, but these similarities are not that relevant. Why? Because how laws are implemented changes. Okay? Even you may have the same law, but how is it being implemented? That's one thing. Implementation is another one thing. Then, if it is being implemented, how the courts see it, how the society sees it, might be different. So you have to really not try to implement your own laws within your company or outside of it. You have to follow the law that's there. Now, companies must determine when, where, and how to adjust their business practices without undermining the basis for success. Now this is important because a company's job is to be profitable, okay? Make money. So they have to think how to do it. That involves paying bribes and corruption as well. Okay? Pretty common. Now, moving on. Managers evaluate, monitor, and forecast political environment. Even if you are a domestic company, you need to understand what kind of political changes are going to take place. Now, most countries have multi-party system, right? Except if you come from North Korea and China, and some others. What about Vietnam? You still have multi-party, one party? Vietnam is one party or multi-party?
One party.
One party is still. Okay. So, if it's one party, you do not have to worry too much. Okay. In the sense that the government is not going to change. You have to worry about things, of course, because if there is one party system, then mostly it's authoritarian. Meaning that they can change anything anytime without taking your welfare in consideration. So laws change overnight in authoritarian regimes. And it doesn't care about, what your individual company is going to suffer, because their idea is of collectivism. Okay. So, but in countries where you have multi-party system and then where elections take place, companies need to understand that, okay, which party is going to come in power. Because political parties follow ideology, okay? They follow some kind of orientation that decides their economic policies. Now, a country's political system refers to the structural dimensions and power dynamics of its government that specify institutions, organizations, interest groups, and define the norms that govern political activities. Now, what do you understand by this definition? Too many things, right? Simply, a political system is how a country's government operates. Okay? That's it. Don't go too much into the definition, it's too many things. Okay? Now, coming back to culture, individualism and collectivism. Now, why do we discuss this in political or legal situations? Because your culture shapes your politics and your laws. Okay? So, if the country has individualism, we discussed individualism, right, and collectivism last week? No?
No.
We discussed culture, but we did not discuss this? Okay. Okay, so what is individualism? Anybody? It's a cultural dimension given by Hofstede and defines that a person, individualism means that the person in a society thinks about himself or herself. It's maybe simply about a person's dreams, a person's ambitions, person's life experiences. The focus is an individual. Okay? Achievement, education, your life, everything, the focus, the unit is an individual. Now, opposite of that we have collectivism. Okay? Collectivism is basically a groupthink ideology. That is that the focus is the collective good of people, or maybe your family, not individual. You don't think about individual dreams, individual ambitions. You think about your family as a whole. Now, most Western countries have individualism. Okay? So, achievement of a person is celebrated, intellectual property right is respected. In collectivism, you think about people, the community. Now, most Eastern cultures are highly collectivist. So in collectivism, your own achievement is not celebrated, your own achievement does not matter. It's of the society as a whole, your family as a whole, and how you fit in a family. Okay? So the entire orientation is very different. For collectivist people, individualist people are selfish. That's how we see people who come from the individualistic mindset. Now, from their perspective, collectivist people have a lot of baggage, social baggage, that causes them not to become, you can say, successful because of their family or because of their society. So both see each other in a negative light, and when these two clash, it's get difficult to conduct business. And in Hofstede's all dimensions, this is one of the strongest dimensions. And a lot of times when we conduct research, we do not use other dimensions, we just use this one. Because it's very strong and it has not changed much over time. Now, in terms of politics and laws, individualism, in countries where you have individualism, you'll find that the primacy of the rights and role of individuals. So, it doesn't matter what good a thing, a product, or anything can do to society. If a person owns that, that belongs to the person only. Okay? That's why I see in the West, where you have individualism, people respect intellectual property rights. And if they don't do, they are severely punished. So, for instance, if you download movies in the US, you'll get a notice. Okay? Illegally, if you download a movie, you'll get a notice. If you don't pay heed, if you keep doing that, you get fined heavily. Okay? Piracy is not tolerated. But have you downloaded movies in Taiwan? Softwares with crack. Yes, right? I won't report you to the police. Maybe anyway, the police won't do anything. You see, in Taiwan there is intellectual property right very strong now, but the law is there. Implementation is not there. Okay? Otherwise, if you have downloaded software or movie, you would be paying fine or be in jail right now. But does the police come and catch you? Have they done it till now? No. Why? Because we live in a collectivist society. If somebody has made something, we have the right to own it without paying, of course. Okay? So we feel that why should one person benefit it's very unfair. Why should I pay so much money for a software? And some softwares are expensive, right? So why should we pay for that? We should get it for free. That's the mindset. It's not that we are thieves. Okay? It's just our mindset that is very collectivist. So we think that it's everybody should benefit. And that causes us to not care about intellectual property as well. Or for that matter, a lot of things. We see it in different ways. We expect certain things to be like collective. So in these kind of societies, laws and politics focuses on the rights and roles of the community. Okay. Now, don't get confused this one with communism. Okay. It's a different thing. It's based on this idea, but it's a different thing. So, individualism and collectivism will shape how we see laws and regulations, and if we give like priority to the individual or give priority to the society. If priority is given to the individual's rights are protected. If it's society, then think about greater good of the society, not the individual. Moving on. Now, based on these, you will have your political ideology. Now, if you're from a multi-party system, you see that different parties, political parties, have their own ideology. Now, how a society ought to function outlines the method by which it will do so. Now, most modern societies are pluralistic. Okay, morning. So, meaning that you have space for more than one ideology. So, different groups champion competing political ideologies. For example, Democrats versus Republicans in the United States. Okay. Trump is from which party? Republican. Now, do you understand the difference between Democrats and Republicans in terms of their policies? Yeah, Democrats are liberals and Republicans are conservatives. Okay, so that reflects in their approach. For example, these people are pro-abortion, anti-abortion. Okay, and in many things, more you can say depending on religion, less depending on religion, to seek votes. More for guns, less guns. Okay. Both don't do anything, but they say. Same you have in Japan, Democratic Party versus Liberal Party. Now what about Taiwan? You know, there are two main parties. Which ones?
Democratic Party.
Sorry? Democratic Party?
And the Communist Party.
Not communist exactly.
The Kuomintang.
It's not communist.
Nationalist.
They are nationalists, you can say. They are more like Republicans. Okay? And very confusing kind of history, because Kuomintang, that's KMT, okay, was extremely anti-China, because it's the party of the of Chiang Kai-shek, Chiang Chie-shi. So it was anti-communism actually, entirely. They jailed a lot of people in Green Island. There's a prison there in 1970s and 80s. So they were very anti-China, but now their policies are very pro-China. Okay. The other party, Democratic Progressive Party, they are anti-China, and they are like, you can say, they're more or less like Democrats. Okay. Now, if you don't have a multi-party system, then you have one party. Okay. Now, in one-party system, there are then again in authoritarian regimes there are differences. We'll discuss that as well. Any other example? What about Indonesia? Many parties. But do you have any like main parties, some national parties?
You can divide it into party. Nationalism versus religious-based party.
Okay. So which one is winning?
Nation Democrat.
Good news. Okay. Now there is a wave of nationalism in the entire world. If you see in any side of the world, East, even in Europe, in the US, but not all places they are taking a lot of, the ultra-right is not there. So keep changing. I mean, if you see the big picture, people get agitated, people get irritated, or if their party is not in power. But it's a big picture you have to see, that there is a wave of nationalism, and understand this very important thing. It's not part of your book, but you have to understand that anything that happens, okay, be it religious differences, be it fight along the lines of political ideology, be it anything, I mean it's ultra right or ultra left, the root cause is economics. Okay? Always. It's about trying to control the resources, just a diversion that, okay, I mean there are political differences or religious differences or any kind of differences. It's always about resources. It's about the economics of it. Now, who will benefit economically? All wars are fought because of that. Now, Brexit happened because of that. Because people did not know what's going on. Most of the old people in the UK did not even understand what Brexit is. They just thought that immigrants are not going to get jobs anymore, so we are voting for Brexit. Now they are in a mess. Okay? They have no idea what's going on and how to handle it. But that's the anti-something protest in different countries that causes people to vote for example, I mean any party, I mean ultra left or ultra right, or whatever it is, extremism of any kind. So it's always economics. Now moving on. As I said, some countries are not only limited to two main parties, there are many parties. Depending on the size of the country or the political fracture that we have, you may have many political parties, some regional, some national. Now, the political spectrum would outline these political ideologies, I mean various forms of political ideologies, and we'll come back to political freedom later. Now this is the political spectrum. Now one side you have democracy, okay? The other side you have totalitarianism. And democratic systems you may have different kinds. You have reactionary, conservative, liberal, radical. You do not need to understand the difference much because it's just how they are formed. That's not in front of this side, but this side you have totalitarianism. This you need to understand. Okay? To know the negative in a better way than the positive one. No, that's my view. Now, totalitarianism, it doesn't. It's not necessary that totalitarianism leads to poor economic performance. Now that was believed, but China changed everything. Okay? Now what are the differences? Authoritarian means that the government has, you have a single party system. Now all of these have single party systems. The government has single party system and the government operates within the will of the political party. In case of China, it's Communist Party of China, CPC. In Chinese, it's Gongchanggang. Now, authoritarian system is usually secular. Most of these systems we will have, these are secular systems. Religion is not involved. Authoritarianism is what we have in China. The government controls everything. Okay? And the people know it. Now, in fascism, people are oppressed, but they have no idea. Okay? Now, the classic example is North Korea. Now, if you go to North Korea, don't go there, okay? But if you go, if you get a chance or you want to study, you'll find that people love their dictator, okay, with a weird haircut. People love their dictator. They think that he is equal to God or almost God. People think that in the West, people are hungry, they don't have money, they don't have clothes to wear, and life is very miserable outside North Korea. And they are very happy people. They have everything, the government is doing everything they can to make them happy, and the life is very prosperous. That's what they have been told since the beginning, because they do not have access to cell phones or internet. So how are they going to know what goes on in the world? And most people do not go out, and most people are not allowed in. So, that is a fascist regime. And do you have any idea what kind of regulations are there in North Korea? Laws? Things that we take take for granted?
If you want to take the picture of the leader's portrait, you gotta take the whole of it. You cannot just cut half.
See, that's not a big problem, you know. If you go there, of course, I mean, if you go there, you are accompanied by monitors who go with you and instruct you how to behave, okay? But that's not a big problem. You know, there are government-defined haircuts. You can only choose one of the haircuts that they have, I mean, approved by the government, okay? You can only wear clothes that they approve. Recently, they said, okay, we are freeing a lot of people. Women can wear heels, okay, high heels. So everybody needs to dress according to what the government says. Everybody needs to follow everything, what kind of clothes they wear, what kind of haircut they get. So and they are very happy about it because they have no idea. So that's fascism. Okay. Very few countries in the world right now. Then you have communists. Now, communist regimes it's basically an ideology, but fascist regime can be communist as well. Okay? Now in communism, the idea is that we work for collective good. Okay? Resources should be divided equally among people, and government should control resources. Private ownership is not good. It leads to excesses and greed. So you distribute everything within the people, I mean among the people. But does it work? Does communism work?
I don't think it works because there are too many restrictions for people in communism.
Now the biggest problem with communism is that communism exists with authoritarianism, meaning that the government has control to the extent that you don't have any right to protest. In most cases, you cannot go against the government in any form, verbal or otherwise. You are always under surveillance. Okay? Now that's one of the biggest problems we have. All of these share that is surveillance. Now, you might say that, okay, surveillance is not something that's only there here. I mean, you have America. You remember the case where they were like recording phone calls of everybody? Huh? Okay. In the US, they were you remember Edward Snowden? He's living in Russia now. So he was a whistleblower, and he revealed that the government was recording calls, your private calls of foreign leaders, hacking into your computers, your cell phones, listening, using your camera. You see, even